Masechet Avoda Zara, Daf Lamed Gimel, Ve'haba'in Mutarin. We learned in the Mishnah that if you see non-Jews going to an idolatrous festival, you cannot do business with them, because then if you make a business deal, they'll be so happy and they'll go and thank their idols for it. But on the way back home, well, then they're just going home. So then you can do business with them, because that's it. They're not going back to the festival, so you don't have to worry that they're going to be inspired to worship idolatry from the business that you do with them on the way home. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, lo shenu ela she'en kishurin ze bazeh, ava kishurin ze bazeh asurin ema da'ato lahazor. Resh Lakish says this leniency is only true if they're not together in a group, attached to each other. They're meaning they're going home individually. So then he's going home, he's by himself. So he's going to go back home. That's it. He's not going to worship idolatry anymore that day. However, if they are all together in a group, then it's prohibited from doing business with them, because then we should assume that they intend to return. Otherwise, why would they be all in a group together? If they're going home, then each one goes his separate ways. If they're in a group together, that means they were at the festival, they decided to go for a walk together to do something, but they're all staying in a group because they're going to go back to the festival. Therefore, even though they're leaving, can't do business with them, because you can see that they're going to go back there and then they'll be inspired and happy to worship their idol again if you do business with them. So only if they're alone going home, then it's permitted. Nodot hagoyim vekan kanehem. Next, the Mishnah says that wineskins and jugs that belong to non-Jews, they are prohibited to use because they put wine in it, and they put wine of idolatry in it, and now it absorbs the taste in either the wineskins that are made from leather, from animal skins that they sew up and make watertight, or from jugs made out of earthenware. Both of those will absorb the taste. So a lot of laws of kashrut we're going to see here of vessels, but this is not absorbing through heat. Usually when we talk about pots and pans, that's absorbing because they're hot in the oven or on a stove. Here, there's no heat involved, and generally if something is cold, then it does not absorb. However, here we're talking about where it's soaked in for a long time, like being pickled. So even if something is cold, because if the wine is stored in a jug for a long time, then that also absorbs some of the taste. It won't absorb as much as with heat, but it still absorbs sufficient an amount that then if the Jew would use that wineskin or that jug afterwards and put something liquid in it, then it would absorb the taste of the prohibited wine that the non-Jew had put in there before, and therefore it's prohibited. Tenorabanan, nodot hagoyim, gerudim, hadashim, mutarim, yeshanim, umezufafin, asurin. A baraita elaborates and says that if you have wineskins that come from non-Jews, it depends. Sometimes they're allowed, sometimes they're not allowed. If it is not coated, that's gerudim, and it's new, then you can use it. But if it's old, meaning it's already used, or it's coated, then it's prohibited. Let's explain how this works. You take a wineskin. So if it's new, so this is just fresh leather that was prepared for use, but wine was never put in it, well then it's totally allowed. So the non-Jew made it, but the non-Jew never put wine in it, so then it's like buying a new pot from a store, which is permitted because no one ever cooked in it. So there's nothing unkosher in it. So that's chadashim. Now, the wineskins and pots or earthenware also, in those days, sometimes they would line it with a coating. They calls it tar here, and that would improve it from not absorbing so much. Like they put tar on a roof to make it waterproof. So too, they put some kind of, not actually tar, but some kind of coating on the inside of the wineskin so that it would not absorb so much taste. The problem with the tar is that it didn't taste good. And therefore, sometimes people would add some wine into the tar, into this coating, mix it in, and it was hot when they put it in, and then they would swish it around and smooth it around in the inside of the wineskin, and then wait till it cools off, and then it would harden. So the problem is that it actually has wine in it. Therefore, if a non-Jew has a new wineskin and did not put any coating on it, then that's totally fine. There's no problem with that. But if it's used, number one, that means he put wine in it, and now it has taste of idolatrous wine. That's prohibited. Or even if he didn't use it, but he put this coating in it, and he may have added some wine into the coating, prohibited wine, well then that makes the wineskin prohibited. Goy ribeban ve'ibedan v'natan letochan yayin v'Yisrael omed al gabav eno choshesh. The Braita continues, however, and says, if the non-Jew pitched the wineskin and lined it and added wine to it to negate the flavor, not for storage, but rather added some wine to that lining, to that pitch that he's putting in, and there's a Jew that's standing over him watching what he's doing, then it's okay. Then you can take that wineskin and you can use it. That's the Braita. Gemara is going to ask about this last leniency. The Gemara asks, since the non-Jew is putting wine into it, he's putting it in the coating and putting it in this wineskin, how does it help that the Jew is standing above him and watching him do that? So you have a Jew watching the non-Jew do a wine libation, right? He's going to pour it out and have in mind, or say some incantation that this is a wine libation. So how does it help that the Jew is watching him do it? How does that make it kosher? The non-Jew is still pouring wine into this wineskin. So how does it help? Amar Papa hachi ka'amar goy ribeban ve'ibedan v'Yisrael noten letochan yayin v'Yisrael achel omed al gabav ve'eno choshesh. Papa says, you're missing a line. This is what the Braita should say. If a non-Jew came and pitched and lined this container, and a Jew added the wine to make it taste better, so it doesn't taste the tar doesn't taste bad, and there's another Jew that's standing above him and watching, then it's okay. Wait a second. Now you're adding too many steps. If a Jew is the one that's pouring the wine into this mixture, then why do you need another Jew to be a mashgiach? What's the problem? The Jew that's pouring it in, that's totally fine. It's kosher wine. He's not going to have in mind for idolatry. Then why do you need the other Jew standing there? And the answer is Dilma gav tirdeh menasech ve'lavadate. Because since the Jew that's pouring the wine is preoccupied making sure to do a good job, he doesn't want to spill it, you have to do it the right way. So we're afraid that the non-Jew who is preparing the tar and putting it in will surreptitiously pour some wine into it himself for yayin nesech. So we need two people. The Jew to actually pour the wine, because it's good to have a little wine mixed into the pitch. And you need another Jew to make sure that the non-Jew is not on the side adding some himself. That's all one answer to explain the second half of the Baraita. But there's another answer. Rav Zavid Amar le'olam kedekamat me'ikara. Rav Zavid says, no, go back to the original version of the Baraita, that the Jew is not pouring it in, the Jew is just watching the non-Jew. And why is it okay? And in this case, when the non-Jew is pouring the wine, it's good, the non-Jew is pouring wine into this mixture of tar that he's putting into the wineskin, but that's okay because it's the same as splashing some water into clay. If you're mixing clay and you want it to be a little softer, so you put some water in, that water is not going to be drinkable anymore. It's going to get absorbed into the clay, and then you burn it and it will evaporate. So that water is gone. It's the same thing here. This wine, you're not putting in there to store. You're not going to be able to drink it later. It's getting mixed into the tar and it's going to be gone. That's it. You're not drinking it, and in fact the tar is going to make it taste bad. So since he's getting rid of this wine, it's not a libation. He's not going to make a libation to a god. You only make it if the wine remains and you can use it and it remains a taste of wine. But here the wine is just getting ruined in this mixture, and therefore there's no need to worry that is going to be a libation. Therefore, it's okay if the non-Jew does it, as long as the Jew is watching to make sure that, in fact, he's putting in the wine just into the tar and not putting more wine that is going to give it taste to store in it. Amar Rav Papi shema'mina med Rav Zavid. Hai goy dishda hamra lebe milhe de Israel sharer. Rav Papi says, I can learn another law from Rav Zavid to a similar case. If a non-Jew puts wine into a salt receptacle with salt in it, a salt shaker or a bowl of salt, it's permitted to a Jew to use it. Why? Because the wine is going into the salt and it's going to be absorbed by the salt, and it's not going to stay there in its own form. And therefore, the Jew can use that receptacle and is not going to make it non-kosher, because we assume that you can even have used the salt, because the non-Jew is certainly not going to have intention of giving that wine as a libation to a god if the wine is not going to remain wine, but rather be absorbed into the salt. So that's the same thing, being absorbed into the tar or being absorbed into the salt. That was Rav Papi's law. However, not everybody agrees. Matkif la Rav Asher midameh hatam kazi leibud. Hacha la kazi leibud. Rav Asher says, no, these two cases are not the same. In the case of tar, the wine is lost. It's gone. It's destroyed. It's not even going to taste good. No one's going to eat that tar. It's just a lining for the inside of the wineskin or of a jar. But regarding salt, it's not lost. Rather, it's in the salt, and people will still eat the salt. It's actually tasty. Wine tasting salt, wine flavored salt. And so it doesn't go to waste, but people will use that salt. And therefore it could be that the non-Jew will have in mind to pour it for idolatry. So wine that's poured into salt is still prohibited. Bar Adi Taya'a Anas Hanhu Zike Merav Yitzchak Bar Yosef. One time, there was this Arab named Bar Idi, and he grabbed some wineskins from Rav Yitzchak Bar Yosef. He just stole them. He stole them temporarily, and he put wine in them. He used it for a little while, and then he returned it to Rav Yitzchak. He just needed a wineskin for a few hours or a few days. Now, the rabbi has his wineskins back, but he doesn't know what to do with them because this Arab used it for non-kosher wine. So can he use it now? Amar le Rabbi Yirmiyah, kach ora Rabbi Ameh halacha lema'aseh, memela an ma'im shelosha yamim u'ma'aran, amar Rabba sarich le'aran, me'et le'et. And so Rabbi Yirmiyah says there is a way to kosher a wineskin that a non-Jew used. What you do is you fill it up with water for 3 days. In other words, we have the principle, kibol kach poto. As something absorbs, so too it spits out that taste. So we know that principle regarding an oven. If something is absorbs in the oven, got to put it in the oven. If it's on the stove, then you have to kosher it by being on the stove. Kli rishon, kli sheni. Here, it's not through heat, but rather by soaking for a long time, like pickling. So, since it gets absorbed by soaking, the wine is in there for a long time and gets soaked in, that's the way that you kosher it also. You'll soak water in it for a long time. How long? For 3 days. Rava adds, you can't just leave it in there for 3 days, but rather every 24 hours, you have to pour out that water because it already absorb some of the taste of the non-kosher wine and put new fresh water in it to absorb further taste till the taste of that wine is totally dissolved into the water and it won't taste any like that anymore. Now, you can only use this, obviously, for things that are cold. You can't just soak things for a long time in order to kosher for something hot. But that's how he was able to kosher these wineskins. Now, at first we thought that this law is only if the wineskin or jug or whatever was originally owned by a Jew. But if it belonged to a non-Jew from the beginning, then maybe not. Why would it make a difference? Because jugs or wineskins, earthenware, whatever they used for the first time, it absorbs a lot because then it's fresh. And so it's going to absorb a lot for the first use. So if a Jew uses it first, then it absorbed kosher wine. Now, after, if a non-Jew comes and uses it, it's going to absorb, but not so much, and therefore you can get it out by soaking it for 3 days. But if the non-Jew is the first one to use it, then in its original form, it's absorbing a lot of non-kosher. So maybe this type of koshering would not work if it was owned by a non-Jew the whole time. That's what we thought at first. But when Resh Lakish, when Ravin came from Eretz Yisrael, he said the name of Resh Lakish, that it doesn't matter whether it belonged to a Jew first or belonged to a non-Jew first. You can soak it for 3 days and kosher a wineskin in this way. And Rav Acha, the son of Rav Ada, thought, and he expressed in front of Rav Asher, that maybe this way of koshering something by soaking for 3 days is only okay for wineskins that don't absorb so much. But jugs made out of earthenware that absorb more, maybe it's not sufficient to soak it for 3 days, and you can't kosher it. Amar le Rav Asher la shena nodot vela shena kankanim. But Rav Asher, his teacher, said, no, it doesn't matter whether it's a wineskin or even if it's earthenware jug, it's okay. It's used for cold, but it was the wine soaked in it for a long time and absorbed the taste. So you can get it out by soaking it in water for 3 days. Tenor banan, kan kanim shel goyim, chadashim gerudim mutarim, yeshanim mezufafim asurim. Another braita that's similar to the braita that we had above. The one above was about wineskins, and this one is about jugs made out of earthenware, and we learned the same law. Jugs that belong to non-Jews, if they're new and they have no coating, permitted. He just made it in the kiln. It's brand new. There's nothing in it, no coating. So certainly you can buy it from them and you can use it. However, if it's old, used, they already put non-kosher wine in it, that's a problem. Or if they tarred it, they put the coating in it, that coating itself, they would add wine to it, and therefore it's prohibited. Goy noten tochan yain, v'Yisrael noten tochan mayim. Goy noten tochan yain, Yisrael noten tochan sir umurias ve'eno choshesh. If, however, a non-Jew did use a jar, then there's a way to kosher it. If the non-Jew put in wine, so the Jew can put in water, as we said above, for 3 days, change it out, and then it's kosher. Or if a non-Jew put in wine, a Jew can put in brine or fish stew. And then you don't even have to wait 3 days. You can wait a shorter amount. Even 1 day would be sufficient because brine and fish stew are very strong in their taste, and they will remove the taste of the wine that was in it before. So if it's water, then you need 3 days for brine and fish stew. You can put that in, and that will destroy the taste of the old wine in a shorter time. Now the rabbis asked the question, can you do this even lechatechila, to put the brine and fish stew in it? Is it lechatechila, you could use this to kosher it, or only b'di'avad? If you did it, then it's okay. Tashema detani Rav Zebid bar Oshaya, halokeh kan kanim min hagoyim hadashim noten tochan yayin. We have an answer from a teaching of Rav Zebid bar Oshaya. If someone buys jugs from non-Jews, if they're new, then you can just use them right away. Put wine in it. If it's old and the non-Jew put wine in it beforehand that wasn't kosher, then all you have to do is put in brine or fish stew, and you can do that lechatechila. So it's totally fine, even lechatechila. Be'amine Rabbi Yehuda nesiya Rabbi Ameh hecheziran lekibshan ha'esh ve'nitla benu mahu. A question that Rabbi Yehuda nesiya, grandson of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, asked Rabbi Ameh. What if you had earthenware that non-Jews used for yayin, so it's not kosher, and you want to kosher it? Can you put it back in the furnace? You put it in the furnace the first time when you first make it. Can you put it back in the furnace, and the heat will destroy all the taste in it? How about that? Amar le sir soref ur lo kol sheken. And Rabbi Ameh answered, if brine can destroy the taste, then all the more so fire. The brine, it's salty and strong, spicy taste, will destroy it. Then the fire of a kiln certainly will be able to destroy the taste. So yes. Itamar nameh amar Rabbi Yochanan ve'amri la amar Rabbi Aseh amar Rabbi Yochanan kan kanim shel goyim shechezran lekibshan ha'esh kevan shenashra ziftan mehen mutarin. And we have another statement to support this law by Rabbi Yochanan, and some say it was Rabbi Aseh in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, that jugs of non-Jews that you put back into the furnace, once the tar has disintegrated, it's permitted. In other words, how hot does it have to be? How long do you have to leave it in? Till that coating, that tar, melts down. Then you know that if it's hot enough to melt the tar, it's certainly hot enough to destroy the taste of the wine that is absorbed in it. Amar Rav Asher, la tema ad denatran, ela afilu refai mirpa af agav de la netar. Rav Asher says you don't have to wait until the tar falls apart entirely. Even if it just gets soft, that means it's hot enough that it destroyed any taste of wine. Kinsa peligi ba Rav Achav Ravina, chad asar v'chad sharen. Also, you don't want to put the jug back into the furnace but you want to heat it up from inside with splinters of wood. You take some matches, some wood pieces that are burning, and you put it inside the jug. And then it softens up the tar that's inside. Is that hot enough? So there's a machloket, Rav Achad Ravina. One says it's not hot enough. One says it is hot enough. And the halacha is the one who says prohibited. The one who says it's allowed says, look, the tar is melting, so you said that's hot enough. The other opinion will say, no, that's only if it's from the heat of the furnace. The heat of the furnace on the outside is so hot that it's even melting the tar inside. So that's very hot. But here, it's only melting because these chips of wood are right next to it, right next to the tar on the inside. But that doesn't mean that the heat spread throughout the entire middle of the walls of the jug to destroy all the taste. So it's not the same level of heat from the splinters as it would be from a furnace, so it's not sufficient. Another question, if there was a jug that was used for non-kosher wine, can you put beer in it? Does the beer have a different taste that overpowers the taste of the wine? Or do you say it's the same thing, and just like you can't use it for kosher wine, you cannot use it for beer? Rav Nachman and Rav Yehuda asreh, Rav Shareh machloket. Rav Nachman and Rav Yehuda say, no, not allowed. Has a taste of non-kosher wine, and it will enter into the beer. But Rava says, no, the beer has a strong taste that will overcome the wine. Ravina permitted to Rav Chiya, the son of Rav Yitzchak, to put beer in a jug that once held non-kosher wine. Azal Rema Hamra. And then Rav Yitzchak, he made a mistake. He said, if I'm allowed to use it for beer, I'm allowed to use it for wine also. So he took this old jug that was used by non-Jews and he put wine in it. Now you might think that he would make a gezerah, that look, I better tell him don't put beer in it, because if you allow people to put beer, then they're going to end up putting wine in these old jugs. But he did not worry about that, and he says, it was just a mistake. Sometimes people make mistakes. Doesn't mean you make a gezerah every time someone mixes something up. So he felt that the halacha is sufficiently clear that you could tell people, listen, an old jug that was used for wine by non-Jews, can't put wine in it, because then it will have benefit from the taste of the wine. But beer, that's okay to put in it. It will overpower the taste of the old wine. Rav Yitzchak bar Bisna hava lehanhu maneh tefa kosna malinhu maya anchinhu b'shimsha peka'u. A story about Rav Yitzchak bar Bisna. He had vessels made out of cow dung, and once it gets dry, it can harden, and you can make vessels, cups and bowls out of it. And so these were used by non-Jews to put wine in it, and now he wanted to kosher it. So he used the system we said before. He put water in it. He was going to put water in it for 3 days and switch it out every day. That would have been okay. The problem is he put it out in the sun. Maybe he thought that the sun would heat it up a little and would help it to get kosher, but it was a bad idea. But putting water in it and then putting it in the sun, it broke. The vessels broke from the heat and the water in it. They just got destroyed. Amar Rabbi Abba asartinu alach isura dil olam. And Rabbi Abba told Rabbi Yitzchak bar Bisna, now you made it prohibited to yourself forever. It's kind of a joke. He actually destroyed it. So it's prohibited forever because it's in pieces. But his point is that you did the procedure wrong, and now you can't use it. You didn't follow the direction of the rabbis properly. The rabbis said fill it with water. Did they say put it in the sun? Well, who asked you to put it in the sun? Now you destroyed it. Yes, otherwise you would be able to kosher it by soaking it in water. Amar Rabbi Yusna, Amar Rabbi Ameh, Kele neter en lo tahora olami. So Rabbi Yusna, we don't hear his name too often, said that a vessel made out of natron you cannot purify. This is sodium carbonate. This is a chemical that absorbs a lot. and therefore you cannot kosher it. My keli neter, amar Rabbi Yosef bar Rabin, keli machporet shel sarif. What is this keli neter? It's a vessel made out of excavation of alum powder that is very absorbent, and therefore there's no way to kosher it. Tebe parzak rofila anas hane kube bepumpedita rama behu hamra ahadrinu nihalaihu aitu shailuhu lerav Yehuda amar davar she'en machniso lekiyum hu meshach shechan b'mayim vehen mutarim. And now a story about a guy named Parzak from the house of the vizier. He's a government official, and he stole some vessels from Jews in Pumbedita, and he put wine into it. So now it has wine of non-Jews. And then after he was done with them, these are nice thieves. They just needed something. They're borrowing by force. And then they returned it back to the Jews. Now, what are they going to do with these vessels that the non-Jew put wine in? So they asked Rav Yehuda, and he said, this type of vessel is not used for long-term storage, and machniso lekiyum, and therefore just scrub it and it's permitted. So here's the idea: if something is used for cold and short-term, then even if there was non-kosher wine in it, it's okay. You just have to wash it with cold, scrub it good so there's nothing on it, and then it's permitted, which is true today also. If something's just used for cold for a short time, then you can kosher it. But if it's soaked in it for a long time, then the soaking is what absorbs. And so that, therefore, in this case, it was permitted because these non-Jews used it only for a short term. They're just like drinking cups that they use for a few minutes or a short time, and did not absorb anything because it was not soaked in it. Amar Rav Avira hane chatzbe shechime de arma'e kevan de la bal'i tuba meshachshechan b'mayim umutarim. Rav Avira says regarding these dark brown Aramean jugs, they don't absorb much, and therefore, even if it was used by non-Jews, you could just scrub it in water, and it's permitted. Amar Rav Papi hane patvata de b'michse kevan de la bal'i tuba meshachshechan b'mayim umutarim. And similarly, Rav Papi says, earthenware vessels from this place, be'michse, they have they're made in a certain way that they don't absorb much, and therefore, even if a non-Jew uses it, just scrub it, and it's permitted. Kind of like glassware nowadays that we know does not absorb, so you don't have to boil it. Fire, you don't have to put it in fire. You could just wash it, and it's good to go. Kaseh Rav Aseh Asar, Rav Asher Shareh. Regarding cups that non-Jews used, Rav Aseh said it's prohibited. Rav Asher says it's permitted. The idea is that a cup is something that holds wine for a short time, so it's not soaking in it for a long time. Nevertheless, Rav Aseh, he's later than the famous Rav Asher, later Amora, in a generation afterwards. He said, no, it's still prohibited because it still absorbs. Rav Asher says, no, it's not soaking in it for a long time, and therefore it's permitted to use these earthenware vessels that even though they were used by non-Jews before, just clean it out. Now we qualify. Isha tebehu goy pa'am rishon kula amala peligi de asur. Even Rav Asher, who says it's permitted, would agree that if the non-Jew was the first one to use the earthenware vessel, then certainly it's prohibited. Because an earthenware vessel, once it's new, the first thing that you put into it is going to absorb a lot of that drink. Then afterwards, once it absorbed a lot of the first thing, the things that you put in after, it only absorbs a little bit. So if the non-Jew puts wine in it for the first time use, then that's it. It's going to absorb a lot, and there's no way to kosher it. But the discussion is ki piligi bepam sheni. If a Jew used it the first time, or some permitted liquid was put in it, and then the non-Jew used it afterwards, Rav Asher says, okay, it's only temporary usage, and it's cold, so therefore it's okay. Whereas Rav Aseh said, no, that's also prohibited. Another version of this qualification is that the first two times that a non-Jew uses it, if a non-Jew uses it for the first two times with non-kosher wine, then for sure it's not allowed. In other words, the earthenware vessel absorbs a lot the first time and the second time. Only from the third time afterwards, ki pligi bepam shilishi, that's where Rav Ashi says, the third time already is not absorbing much, and Rav Ashi but still is stringent. Ve'ilchata pam rishon v'sheni asur, shilishi mutar. And the halacha follows Rav Ashi according to the Ika de Amre, who says that as long as a Jew put kosher liquid in it the first time and the second time, that already absorbed most of the absorption power from kosher things. And then if the non-Jew uses it for the third filling, it's permitted. He's not soaking in it. It's just a short term. And it's not going to absorb much from that. Amar Rav Zevid, Haimane dekunya chivara ve'ukama share yaruka asur mishum de misrif. Rav Zevid teaches that if you have glazed earthenware, it's glazed with a certain coating. It depends. If it's made out of white or black coating, then it's permitted because those coatings are waterproof. They're not absorbent. But if it's green, how do you make it green? You have to put alum in it. And alum is absorbent and it's beautiful, but it's absorbent, and therefore those you have to only use for kosher. If it's used for not kosher, then you can't use it anymore. But if there's cracks in it, then it doesn't matter what color it is, because the non-kosher liquid will go into the cracks, and then when you fill it up again with kosher liquid, the non-kosher taste will come out of the cracks. So if there's a crack in the glaze, then it's no good. But if there's no cracks and it's made with and it's white and black, then that glaze protects it from absorbing anything. Tarash maremar kunya ben ukma ben chivara ben yeruka share. Maremar said glazed earthenware is permitted, whether it's black or white or even green, because even the green one will not absorb liquid, and therefore, as if it's glazed, even if a non-Jew put wine in it, clean it off, and then a Jew can use it. And now we ask, how is the laws of wine in these jugs different from the laws of Hametz on Pesach? Because Maremar over here, he was very lenient and said, doesn't matter what color, black, white, or green, though if it's coated, it's permitted to use, even though the non-Jew put wine in it, you just clean it off and it's okay. So he's very lenient. But when it comes to Hametz on Pesach, Maremar was asked a question, and he said, regarding glazed earthenware vessels, can you use them on Pesach, even though you use them for Hametz all year round? Can use them on Pesach. And we clarified the question and said, if it's green, then for sure it's not allowed because it has alum in it and is going to absorb. So for sure that's not allowed. But the question was still about white and black. What is the halacha? So we see already there's a contradiction. Maremar up here said that no matter what color, even green is permitted if there was non-kosher wine in it. But over here, regarding chametz, if it was green, that he says you cannot use it for Pesach. And another qualification of the question, if it has cracks in it, then for sure it's not good. But if it's smooth and not cracked, then what's the law? And Moremor answered, Amar lehu, ana chazina lehu dim daiti, vechavan dim daiti, vadai bal'e va'asire. My tama, Torah he'ida al keli cheresh sheno yoseh mideh dofno le'olam. His answer was, I see that this earthenware vessels, they sweat. In other words, you can see that after they're used, you can see that there's still some moisture coming out of them. Since they sweat, certainly they absorbed moisture, and therefore it's prohibited. And how do I know that that's true? Because the Torah says that earthenware vessels, you can never get the taste out of its walls. The Torah says it regarding the laws of a sacrifice. If you cook a sacrifice, a korban shelamim, you cook it, you're allowed to eat it, but there's a cutoff time, you're not allowed to eat it afterwards. Not only the the meat itself, but even the taste of the meat. Therefore, if you boil a korban shalamim in a metal pot, so you can kosher the metal pot. Whatever is absorbed in it after 2 days is prohibited. So you want to use the pot again, you kosher the pot. You can kosher it by boiling the pot again. However, the Torah says if it's earthenware, then there's no way to kosher it. You just have to break the earthenware and you can't use it again. It's a one-time use pot. You can use it to boil the korban, eat it, but then whatever is absorbed in it is going to become prohibited after a certain amount of time as notar. You have to break it. So you see the Torah itself says that earthenware you cannot kosher, you have to break, and therefore that's going to be the same for Pesach. If it was used for chametz and it's green, then it's prohibited, even if it has no cracks in it. So how come he was stringent when it came to chametz on Pesach, but Moremor was, how come he was stringent regarding chametz on Pesach, but when it came to yayin nesach, he says, all glazed earthenware, no matter what color, even green, is permitted. So maybe you'll answer, chametz on Pesach is a isur deoraita. There we have to be stringent. But yayin nesech is rabbanan. When it says yayin nesech, if we know for sure that the non-Jew served it as idolatry, then that would be asur mideoraita. What we mean here is stam yanam, that they had wine. We don't know if he poured it for idolatry or not. So midrabanan, we have to be stringent. So if you say that's the difference, because chametz is doraita, whereas yayin nesech stam yanam is only midrabanan, so we can be lenient and allow for the any color of glaze, but that can't be true because there's a principle, very important principle. Whenever the rabbis make a gezerah, a takana, they make it like a deoraita. We're not then, just because it's derabanan, we're not going to start making further distinctions. Oh, it's derabanan, so they're going to be lenient in this part and that part. Once something is prohibited, let's say chicken and milk, okay, it's derabanan. Are you going to be more lenient regarding chicken that's absorbed in a pot or that? No, we don't. We're not more lenient. Whatever laws of pots and pans and kosher and things that we apply to meat, we're going to apply to chicken also, because the rabbis are not going to make a distinction. Once they may say something is prohibited, even though it's only the Rabbanan, they're going to make their takana, they're going to make their ordinance and follow the same rules as the oraita generally. And therefore, just because stam yanam is only prohibited in the Rabbanan, they're going to say, well then, if you would not use a green glazed vessel for an isur deoraita, then they would not allow it for an isur Rabbanan either. So it can't be that that's the answer. Rather, zeh tashmisho bechamin v'zeh tashmisho besonen. The difference is that chametz that you're cooking all year round, it's hot. These are hot dishes that you're putting in this glazed earthenware. That's the problem. So then the green is going to absorb when there's hot food in it. That's okay all year round, but if it's chametz, then on Pesach you cannot use it. Whereas wine is cold, and even though it might be in there for a while, but that's not the same as being hot, it doesn't absorb, and therefore the green glaze is sufficient to keep it from absorbing if it's food that is cold. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen ve'amen.